Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Seal of Approval. Apologies for running a few minutes late there, but, it's been worse. There have been times when we've done the show and it's literally never started. So I consider the lateness just to be, fashionably late.
It was within 5 minutes. It's within tolerance, close enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got there.
In the end, I was like, so the reason why I was kind of running a little bit late is because I've been messing around with Twitch, because I'm planning on seeing whether I can stream a bit of Cyberpunk when it comes out at midnight, because that's one of the things we're going to be talking about in this show. The show's going to be a little bit shorter than normal because there's two stories which we're really going to be focusing on. But yeah, I'm thinking of kind of giving it a bit of a play. Because I've heard it's as we'll see in a bit, it's one of the most transphobic games ever made, and I need to really kind of see this debauchery for myself. But joining me in this mission of discovery is everyone's favorite spicy starman, Scrump.
Yes, I am here. Here is where I am. It's good to be back. It's good to be back and talking about some decent subjects. I've been following the Cyberpunk stuff relatively closely, so
yeah.
I kind of disclaimer: I've not played the game, I've not bought the game. Well, nobody's really. Well, a few people have played the game now.
The only people who have played Cyberpunk at the moment are journalists.
I've seen a whole bunch of people streaming it today somehow.
Really?
They gave out tons of pre-copies, like tons.
They gave, yeah. A lot of people were upset because they didn't get them earlier, but the day before launch, they'd given out a lot, yeah.
Because I believe they offered it like even to Razor Fist and everything. They're like,
that's good that they're offering it out, and it isn't just because the only things that I've really seen is just the people who had review copies.
So CD usually do all right with their fan base. They usually have a pretty good outreach, but they're just like, well, as we talk about later, they have a bad internal problems.
Right.
Well, in a bit of chaos right now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, joining us to discuss this as well, if people recognise the incredibly thick Welsh accent, Owain.
Hello, Shemai. Pnawn da, boys. Should I tea? Do you know?
Those aren't real words.
Yeah,
see, Rose is a gog. She speaks a different version of Welsh to me.
So, Owain, tell my audience a little bit about yourself, because they unless they watch Unpopular Opinions, they might not be hugely familiar with you.
Yeah, so I've only been about since maybe the beginning of this year. AA brought me up out of obscurity onto Unpopular Opinions, and then from that point, I did I did a cigar stream on architecture because I'm an architect by trade, and now I do I have an architecture and history channel called the Foundations Podcast, which is what I do bi-weekly, going through the history of architecture and that sort of stuff. But my main when I'm on things like this, my main thing is to give the extremely Welsh way of looking at things. Because I am probably the most Welsh of all the Welsh mafia which we have here on YouTube.
Well, you're more Welsh than Shinobi, and he is kind of like a real kind of gravelly, proper, thick, old Welsh accent.
He's proper valleys, isn't he? Proper.
Yeah, but then you have people like me and AA. Like, I think of all the Welsh people who are kind of connected to Unpopular Opinions, I'm probably like the least Welsh. As in, like, I always get confused for being a Scouser. Nobody ever thinks I'm Welsh.
That's what GOG is, because they see Scousers nicked your accent and they added it with the Irish, and that's where the Scouser accent comes from. Because if you go Wrexham, they all sound like they're from there. But then parts of Wrexham sound really posh, like they're from Chester.
Yes. Well, Wrexham's a really kind of, that whole area is really weird because it's not very Welsh culturally.
No.
But you will occasionally find pockets of people who only speak fluent Welsh. And that's it.
And it's North Walian Welsh as well, which is even more like insanely hard to understand.
The thing is, I grew up speaking North Walian Welsh, and there are I know there's differences. Because I know that for example, like the Happy Birthday song up north, it's like Pembroke Happy City,
That's what I
Pembroke
say.
Happy City, Pembroke Happy City,
Someone. Pembroke
Pembroke
Happy
Happy
City.
But there is a different version of it.
So
I think
did you have to sing Me Will I Shaka Door in school?
No.
Oh my god! Okay, that's a difference.
It's getting dangerously Welsh now, people.
No, but one of the funniest things about North William Welsh and South William Welsh is that the word for now in Welsh, in Southern Welsh, is nawr with an R at the end. But in North William Welsh, it's the same word but backwards, chrwan. So when you say what's going on here, you got beth sy'n mlaen here te rwan. I would say beth sy'n mlaen here nawr, or something like that. You know.
Well, nawr is quite similar to mawr, so that might be, you don't want to be like, what's going on, big.
The funniest thing, thing in Welsh when you're surprised, you just shout, yes, see, more, which literally just means big Jesus. You just shout, big Jesus. What's going on here?
Well, anyway, one of the things that people always say in North Wales is bobble bach. It's just little people.
Yeah.
Just little people.
Oh, see, we get called crut down this way. If you're small, it's like beth sy'n mlaen crut. What's going on, little one? Yeah.
So do you not use Bach?
Oh yeah, we use Bach sometimes. Bach is like more of like a kind of it's just a bit of formal. Crut is like what you basically is like if you're being a bit of a mischievous little one, you know?
Ah, right. Like you're all getting a really good like Welsh lesson here, everyone. I mean, like one of the things which I've always found, especially like living in the UK and then seeing the way in which the UK is represented around the world, Wales is kind of like the forgotten part of the UK.
This is why I'm here, Rose. I'm here to bring it back.
That's it. Like nobody takes a notice of us. Like I remember when I was a little kid, there's that like Yakko song about nations of the world, and he misses out Wales.
He goes, I love Scotland, England, and it's like,
Yeah, he points at England, and when England lights up, Wales lights up with it.
Yeah, for a long time we were just part of England. For 1,000 years we were.
Yeah, like but the thing is, we have amazing things in our culture, like the Mari Lwyd.
Oh yes, the horse skeleton at Christmas. I'm terrified that'll be coming around this year. I'm telling you, it's going to be coming. That horse skeleton demon.
Oh God, it'll come round with a face mask.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Can you imagine that?
Let me show people the Mari Lwyd. If just a quick picture of it.
If you don't cessate it, if you don't give it give up something to it or let it inside, it will stay there and it'll curse you.
Like, let me just because this probably sounds like complete nonsense, and it is. So this is the Mari Lwyd. This is an actual Welsh Christmas tradition.
Yep.
Oh dear.
So, like, the idea behind
that's a real horse skull.
Yes. Like, the idea behind it is people will walk around the village with the horse's head skull and like a sheet covering them, and then they'll go to people's houses, and you kind of have like almost like a rap battle in Welsh against the dead horse. And if the horse wins, he gets to go inside and drink all your alcohol.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's all like the drunky guys. It's all like the kind of the village alcoholics who do it because they get steaming while doing it.
So I think that's probably enough of your cultural enrichment.
Yeah.
Of the Welsh. And
the Welsh have no culture. No.
Ooh, we did better keeping ours than the Scots did.
Yeah, I think we did actually.
We did.
we kept it local.
Well, the Scots nicked all theirs from the English and the Irish. Controversial.
I don't know.
Controversial.
All the Scots have now is deep frying things. That's kind of it. That's their entire culture.
We have singing, just singing.
Deep frying and minimum unit pricing. That's all Scotland's been for the past decade.
Well, just before we get into the main stories of the week, I just got a few super chats through. Reed Laverty with their $5 couldn't donate to last week's movie Bob meme dump, but you guys missed his calls for Germany to reinvade Poland after their last election.
Yes.
God, yes.
I've talked about this previously. I think, God, the thing is, every stream I end up on, we always end up talking about movie boob. So, film Robert.
The thing is, like, film of Roberto just has...
Isn't it Diabito?
Diabito.
Yeah. Diabetes. Fucking diabetes.
He just has so many of these like ultra extreme, but at the same time mega hilarious takes that just come out of nowhere.
It's like like how he kind of wants genocide.
Yeah, basically, like
wild.
And so it's impossible to kind of, like you'd really have to do like a real movie Bob Pillars of the Community video.
The problem is he community strikes everything that relates to him like that.
Yeah, that's true.
So what you got to do? You got to do it in allegory. So you got to be like, oh, Diabito, and he can't strike because he's got nothing to do with the video, and you just use the Diabito from Family Guy the whole time.
Well, we'll come to it later, but I'm kind of doing that with election coverage from now on because of the new. Well, that's going to be our second topic.
But basically, we're going to end up having our own language at one point now.
Oh yeah. Well,
it's starting to move that way.
It's the whole in Minecraft thing. We have to talk.
Everything in the hypothetical.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, I think, like I mentioned earlier, I think a lot of people are going to be excited for this coming out in less than 4 hours. I think this coming out at the same time everywhere in the world. I think that's how they're doing it, which is actually a really cool rollout if that's the case.
Yeah, it is. It's a global rollout, and it's in 3 hours, 44 minutes, and 40 seconds exactly because Steam's got the countdown on.
A lot of the files that make the preload work have been leaked, so I know a couple of people who are playing it already. So
I'm just really hoping that when it gets to midnight and I can actually play it. Like my Xbox downloaded an update for it before, so I'm assuming that's the day one patch because it was quite big. But like, hopefully I can jump in. And so if you can see kind of in the middle of those posters, there is there's a woman with an absolute massive penis. It says mixed up.
It's very kind of anime though. It's what we would refer to as a futa.
Yes.
It's classic futa.
Yeah, like it's like that's your trans representation right there. You want a trans representation in a game, you got it.
But isn't Cyberpunk meant to be literally a world where you can change your gender on demand?
And I say this has quite literally been part of the game universe and lore since the beginning. Yes.
Yeah.
Ever since the original Cyberpunk 2020 manual, because some of you may not know this, some of you may actually know this, because I still get people mentioning it to me. But I guess one of the things I was most famous for years ago on the internet was the Cyberpunk campaign I did with Sargon, Arch, and V. Apparently someone's writing a book about that, which is hilarious.
That's fantastic.
That was one of my earlier internet claims to fame. So I have actually played Cyberpunk 2020 with the original manual, not even with the extended rules. It's kind of awful, the original manual, actually. It's not very well thought out. But the original lore is very good, and the original universe is extremely good.
Yeah.
And this was always there. This is foundational to the whole Cyberpunk 2020, the role-playing system it's based off. So
it's like a trans. It's a multicultural transhuman dystopia.
Yes, like like the impression which I have is it's not supposed to be this friendly, diverse. Like you're not going to get in Night City. You're not going to have streets being renamed as like Equality Road, like what's recently happened in Birmingham. It's not going to be that kind of place.
The corporations have taken over. People basically live in an underclass, and nobody gives a shit about you.
So it's a great reset.
Yeah, basically. It's the logical kind of extension of kind of like the 80s corporatism is how it was born out. It was very much born out of that culture. And it's quite relevant today. But no, it's always been like that. It's always been gritty. It's always been violent, and people have always been vulgar. That is how the universe works.
It's supposed to be really in your face, isn't it?
Yeah. So, it sounds like it's quite edgy. It's quite edgy, but not in a way that it's it's just going to drop a dank Pepe or anything like that. It's just kind of edgy in a more traditional sense. Like
I was just going to say, can you imagine like the kid like in this world if they had like some kid walk about in it like looking at a Pepe and going, "What's that old art?" Looking at old memes.
Yeah. Well, it's not some of the stuff. I've noticed the end user license agreement was really, 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 really cringe. From what I've seen, I'll see if I can find it again because it was absolutely fucking awful.
Is this the one where it talks about it's not going to have CRM or something on it?
Is that the one? I think that's the one. Yeah, it's the one where it's like trying to be all cutesy and weird.
Because CD Projekt have a thing about not doing anything like DRM or anything like that on their stuff. I don't know.
It's this. I'll link it to you in Discord if it'll fucking load. But
yeah.
But like, there's a history. The thing was, CD Projekt have had a target on their back for a while now because they dared to make Witcher canon and make it like medieval Europe.
Yeah. They didn't cut out. Well, the thing is that the games journalists have hated CD Projekt Red pretty much since the original Witcher. They hated the whole collectible card thing with sleeping with people. Like, they've hated CD Projekt Red since then, and they only get more and more mad the more successful they get.
Yeah,
because The Witcher was it was an underground hit. I bought it near launch. It was a real mess. It really was. And then they brought out the enhanced edition. They brought out the director's cut stuff, and they just kept adding content and kept upping the quality. And that's what they became famous for. They did the same with The Witcher 2, and they did the same with The Witcher 3. They really went for post-launch support, which kind of gives me faith in this, because a lot of people are saying that the launch has been a bit buggy so far.
I'll say Witcher. I go as far as saying Witcher 3 is one of the best games ever made, especially the way it's been with the DLC it has and the depth of the world it's got. Geralt as a character, I think it's an amazing game.
The only problem with sorry, go on.
I was just about to say, and I really do think the industry has it out for The Witcher for CD Projekt, because they owned them with Witcher 3. It was so against what was happening at the time in the industry, in terms of like the way it's monetized and developed.
Yeah, and CD Projekt Red is a Polish company, is that right?
Yes, they are.
Yes, I thought that was good. And The Witcher is a Polish. It's a Polish series.
Yeah, by Andrzej Sapkowski.
You want a weird piece of Witcher lore? The Prime Minister of Poland, when he met President Obama, gave him a copy of The Witcher 2.
They're very proud of it.
As in the game.
Poland.
Yeah.
They're very proud of CD Projekt.
A copy of The Witcher 2.
They were very proud of it, of The Witcher as an actual series in Poland. They're very proud that they've created kind of many think is the contemporary Lord of the Rings.
But it's something. The people I know who have read the books, like I think my boyfriend's been reading the Witcher books, because he really got into it.
The books are good. I've listened to to 3 of the audiobooks. Last Wish, which is a good one, which is the Last Wishes, which is what the TV series is based on, and some of the rest, and they're all really good. It also helps that for the dwarves all have Welsh accents as well. So
do they?
Yeah, they do in the audiobook.
That's amazing.
There we go. Yeah, Obama did get The Witcher 2 though. It's quite funny.
And elder speech in The Witcher is Welsh, by the way, if you didn't know.
Oh. I mean, I got Witcher 2 because it was a Games with Gold thing, but I've never really sat down and played it. Like, I haven't even played The Witcher 3, although the people I know who have played it, everyone loves it. Yeah,
but you have to have a lot of time to sink into it.
Yeah, I played all the Witcher games. I actually I've kept my continuous save from the first game all the way through.
So you can carry your saves through?
Yes.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Which is it's actually the most relevant, I think, from 2 to 3 because of all the kind of the choices you make during the war. Because 2 is kind of about it's about warfare on the backdrop of the whole Assassins of Kings thing.
Yeah. And Letho, the other Witcher guy. Spoiler.
Yes. Well, it also follows on from the first game, because the first game, weirdly enough, contains spoilers for the third game, because the third game references a lot of stuff in the first game that's apparently supposed to be a mystery. I don't know. It's an odd one, but I've played all of them.
Number 3, though, is his own very well-contained story, because it explains everything so well. Because it was the first time CD really were mainstream. Because if you because Witcher 2, I believe, was released on arcade first on the Xbox. It was one of these weird things where it was released digitally first, I believe, on the Xbox 360. Because it was it a 360 exclusive?
What was?
Witcher 2.
No.
I can't remember. It was something. I remember being an arcade. I think it was released on the 360 at one point.
Yeah, it was definitely released on the 360 because that's how I have it.
Because it's a vastly different game. The PC version, they actually scaled the graphics back a tiny bit for the third game. Because when the second game came out, it was an absolute GPU melter.
Yeah. I remember it used to be. There was 2 questions you asked about PC, wasn't it? It's like, can this run Crysis and can this run The Witcher?
The Witcher 2, was very. I remember it had this setting called ultra mapping, which basically super sampling plus a whole bunch of. It was ridiculous. It looked great. I had a PC that could play it at the time pretty well. I don't think anything when it launched could really absolutely murder it, but I had a very, very decent. I just built a new PC at that point, so I had a very good experience with the second. But what I was going to get to is I'm not actually buying Cyberpunk at the moment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do what I did with the third game, because of what happened with the second game. Is I'm going to wait for all the DLCs to be out and all the director's cut and enhanced edition shit to come out, and just buy it then, because that'll be the best rather than having to do it piecemeal, because they are kind of almost like a victim of their own success in that, with the CD Projekt Red game, it's going to be a lot better in maybe 2 years.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, because was it Blood and Wine? Oh, what a world! That was amazing. Like the world they made there, like Tucson is an amazing little sandbox on its own, and yet alone just being an expansion to an already massive game.
Yeah.
Anyway, I shouldn't be good. I need to be more cynical about CD.
So
the Polygon thing.
So I've got a selection of various different articles that have been written in the last week concerning Cyberpunk, because like the hype for it, like I've only just I wasn't too hugely bothered about the game until like the last 2 weeks, which is when I actually got interested in it. Like for the longest time, I just kind of got annoyed with the amount people were talking about it, and every time it would get delayed and people would spurg out about it online. But especially after seeing like the reaction from the press, it kind of has convinced me that this is like a must-have day one game. So this is an article from Polygon. It sucks that Cyberpunk 2077's edgelord marketing worked so well. So like how, like, I mean, one thing
they are very, very mad at
it. Sucks people don't like things we like.
Yeah, like you mentioned earlier, like CD Projekt Red know their audience really well, and I also mentioned earlier that they were Polish, because like Poland has a very different attitude to the kind of things like woke progressives would push in America. Like it's a very different culture in Poland.
It's a very different corporate culture as well in Poland.
Yeah, and that definitely comes into play when they start talking about the game's representation of trans people, which is one of the things which I'm very, very eager to discover for myself in the game, because there is a lot of spurging about that, and I don't think but from what I've seen, I actually think it's good. I actually think the representation in the game is good, based on what these people are saying. So yeah, this here brings up the Mix It Up poster. Features a feminine model with what can only be described as a huge bulging penis. At the time, some fans called out the imagery as exploitative, mocking, and transphobic, though CDPR defended the poster. Like, this is
this is classic Cyberpunk, though.
Yeah.
It's garish. It's in your face about what the world's about, and it's not the neon.
It's very in keeping with stuff like older media. There's a lot of older Cyberpunk media. Everything is basically based on. Oh, my brain's gone all mushy now. God damn it, the Ridley Scott one.
Blade Runner.
Yeah. God damn it, I can't remember Blade Runner. It has the billion different edits and endings. It's a lot of it's based on Blade Runner, and a lot of it is also kind of, you got newer media as well, stuff like Altered Carbon, and a lot of games that have been based on it. Kind of in the 90s as well was kind of a high point for the cyberpunk genre.
Bit of Deus Ex in there.
Yes, a lot of Deus Ex, and this has been consistent. The tone of it through all of those, all of those have at least some of this flavor to it. It is so kind of in keeping with the universe and the lore and the feel. It's kind of painful, and I don't what they're saying here really is that they are annoyed that Cyberpunk was marketed as a cyberpunk game.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is really what they're saying.
I mean, look at the way they word this here. I don't buy it. While a cutting critique of queer commodification might have been part of the idea's nucleus, it wasn't. Queer commodification was never That sentence there, those two words, they never popped into the mind.
Can you explain the concept of queer commodification?
So what I'm assuming they're referring to is adverts that would use LGBT people in
Isn't
them
this just
as
what the
kind of
news media does
exploitative.
every day these days?
Yes.
They're commodifying people's struggles in quotes to make money.
Yes, that's generally what they do.
There's no rainbow flag there. This has nothing to do with LGBT. I don't think these people realize that the world existed kind of before 2015. There is a world that existed before everything was covered in corporate rainbow.
And I miss it. And I miss it so badly.
Yeah, I mean, like, the way they carry on with this, the outcome is a commodification itself, objectifying trans people as creatures of deviance, defined by their genitals, and suitable only for sexualization or rejection. Can I just point out that this woman here, she's wearing a tight leotard. You can see like a clearly erect, a quite big penis, but otherwise she's standing there having a drink. Well, I don't think that is portraying trans people as being defined only by their genitals.
It's not showing it as deviancy though. The whole point of this universe is that is fucking normal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's supposed to be normalized.
Everybody is commodified. That's the point of a cyberpunk universe that's ruled by evil corporations. Everything is commodified, you retards.
That's exactly what I mean. It doesn't feel like anything other than this is a person who would exist in this world. Let's put them in an advert.
Well, see, it's the same. It's the same problem we have.
This is the kind of person I'm going to be creating tonight. I am like again. I'm gonna start plugging my Twitch a lot more. I think a few of you watching this might have actually joined in. I recognize Toaster. I think it was Izzy the Toaster, or it was someone with a very, very similar name was in there. But like I'm trying to plug my Twitch. So I'm gonna try and play this, but I'm gonna be creating like the big dick Tranner to play in Cyberpunk. Massive tits, massive dick. I'm going full on hypersexualized with this because it's this. You can do it in the game. I think that's incredible. Personally, I would say that is a great way if you want to include trans people in it. You can make a trans woman, like a biological trans woman. Like I don't see what's so bad about that.
Technically, that's the most inclusive character design ever done.
It is. It absolutely is.
The thing is, you don't have to crowbar that either because it makes sense in universe.
Yeah, exactly. That's have you seen like there's no like mega wild conservatives going, oh my god, they're putting dicks on women and sending them out there, and it's like no, it's because it's contextually in the universe, it's meant to be like that.
Like they mention more transphobia around this, so like just kind of take into account this before we look at the next piece, because the next piece has a really hilarious title. These are the transphobic incidents. Did you just assume my gender? And they hijacked a trans positive hashtag to make a joke about PC games. Earlier in 2018, that account had tweeted a Greystone marks games journalism dead by suicide. The thing is, irony. The fucking irony.
It was the gravestone from Postal 2.
Oh wow, was it really? Like Postal 2 was like quite controversial thing when it came out. I remember that being quite controversial because the Postal's literally
the relaunched edition on Steam that Running with Scissors just pissed everyone off. It was actually pretty glorious.
Yeah. So the Twitter hashtag was hashtag won't be erased, because it was a hashtag which trans people did, because trans people are always worried about being erased by, like, you know, they will always hype themselves up that, you know, that their existence is about to be snuffed out forever. They just tweeted out with that hashtag saying, where's it gone? Classic PC games, hashtag won't be erased on our watch.
Based. Dare I say,
GOG.
CD Projekt Red build.
God damn, I love that.
Hey, what do you think? What do you think about that, though, Rose? They're nicking GOG away from you. They're nicking your GOG identity.
Oh, I hate the term GOG because I always associate it with this claymation show that you used to have to watch in Welsh class called GOGs. And so I don't know whether that show came before the term or the term the show was named after the term.
GOG means Gogledd, so that's like means north. Yeah. So, but they've also nicked Gwent. Whenever Gwent is a county in Wales, ladies and gentlemen, but CD Projekt decided to name their card game after it. So when you type in Gwent now, you get the card game and not the county.
Oh God!
Yeah, they nicked a lot of stuff from Welsh as kind of a mythological aspect. Then again, so did Tolkien. So
yeah, Tolkien basically based the whole Lord of the Rings on the Mabinogion, which is, if ladies and gentlemen you wish to learn about Welsh culture, please read the Mabinogion.
Again, that was
so this is like probably the best article that I found on Cyberpunk. How Cyberpunk 2077 perpetuates transphobia and why gamers are calling it an act of violence. Gamers aren't calling it an act of violence.
No.
It's going to be journalists and it's going to be a few like trans people on Twitter. But there have been a number. There was someone who tweeted out the other day that, you know, if you spend $70 on Cyberpunk, you should give $70 to a trans person. And then she obviously tweeted out, you know, things like a Patreon or something. It's like, oh, give me Gibbs money.
That's ridiculous.
Thousands of people liked it. Lots of people shared it in solidarity.
Yeah, but half of them probably don't even care about games. They call themselves a gamer and they play Candy Crush once a day.
Yeah, a lot of these people aren't. A lot of these people don't really care about games because they're more bothered with inserting social messages into a medium that a few years ago they didn't care about than actually enjoying the game.
Yeah, so like it's just media in general now, isn't it? It's just like, oh, it's got to be activistic. It's got to have activist things. It's got to have a point. No, I just want to enjoy this and be away from this crappy world.
So let's see how CD Projekt Red chose to fetishize and commodity trans bodies and trans identity.
I think that's supposed to read
commodifying.
Commodity.
Oh,
good journal.
They have their content editorial is pretty lax, so I imagine their grammar editorial and spelling editorial is pretty bad too.
See, I think the whole taking the commodity line is quite strange, wouldn't it? Surely trivializing would be a better.
Like I said, it's really noisy again because everybody in this universe is by design commodified. That is the entire point of a cyberpunk universe.
It's just too capitalistic, Scrump. It's just too much capitalism. Too much.
It's like complaining that a Quentin Tarantino film is violent.
Exactly. This evil dystopian corporatist world, which is commodified everything, is too commodified.
It's such ridiculous, like autism almost. Though it's like I played a cyberpunk game and people were commodified. I'm offended. It's like saying I watched a porno and people were having sex. It's just
what these people want is for all fantasy worlds to be based around their own beliefs. They don't want a fantasy world to have its own set of, kind of its own identity, its own rules. They have to try and insert their own kind of progressive narratives into everything and just assume, well, the world has to be nice. It's like if they wanted to have a push for, female space marines, for instance.
Haven't they done that, though?
Well, no, there's the Sisters of Battle. They're not space marines, though.
Yeah. Because they've changed so many laws of so many shows now. You've got the Witcher TV show was messed up. You've got the Doctor Who, a little tear down my eye, was completely ruined to fit all these bloody narratives in, and they're just shoehorning everything into every single piece of media, regardless of the rules of the world. And it's so annoying. There's so many things being ruined.
So let's see some of the things which they've said. It goes out of its way to perpetuate negative stereotypes. This is already problematic, but what makes it even worse is the response the critics of the game have received. Oh, several trans critics have been harassed and mistreated online, creating an atmosphere of violence towards the trans. This is one of the things I hate most about trans activism. Trans activism is obsessed. Trans activists really fetishize the idea of violence. They crave it. When they push things like Trans Day of Remembrance, they will try and make it out as though we're facing an epidemic of violence as trans people, despite the figures, like, or worldwide especially, being so low it's barely noticeable. But they're able to twist the arm of various different companies, of politicians, to try and parrot this line. And just general disagreements, as a lot of this is. I mean, when they're saying, like, journalists, we all know how games journalists deal with any kind of disagreement. I mean, we've all followed, like, how fucking Gamergate, all from that onwards, where it all began. And it's just so easy for them to just say it's creating this atmosphere of violence. I somehow doubt that someone, disagreeing with a trans game journalist, or probably, although they've probably got to be clear that they're not talking about Sophia Norwitz, because she's a bad trans. She's a bad one, like so they're talking. Well, yeah, I mean, like she did the bad thing. Yes, she did the bad thing.
She's been expelled. She's a witch.
Well, a lot of them won't even actually type out her name. They will often use asterisks because they don't like her. Like, they don't like saying her name. Like
Voldemort of the trans community.
Like she's fucking Voldemort. She gets a hell of a lot of abuse. You don't see any of these progressive outlets, reporting on the abuse that she gets. Some of it is transphobic,
but it's from the right direction, though, Rose. That's what that's how they see it.
Pretty much, yes. But again, going back to the point of violence, I don't think that anyone, if you look at the accused murderers of the trans women who have been murdered in the United States this year, I highly doubt that anyone of that particular group would have been motivated to murder someone because they saw a tweet making fun of a journalist about Cyberpunk. I mean, that's an absurd statement to make, but that's effectively what they're saying.
It's literally killing trans people, literally meme.
So here we go. This is something I'm looking forward to this evening. I can't wait. So Cyberpunk's transphobia becomes apparent as soon as players enter the character creation menu. So the second we enter it, we're smacked with transphobia. It sports an incredibly detailed and intuitive character creator, where players can manipulate and control various aspects of their character's appearance, including the shapes and sizes of the genitals. Players can even forego the option to include genitals at all. That's not problematic, but the possible excitement turned to disbelief, absolute shock and horror, when they realized the character's gender and pronouns are not determined by genitals, but rather by voice.
Oh my god! So isn't this a contradiction of their whole idea? Like, to the whole idea that someone can essentially decide their pronouns on a day-to-day basis.
Well, so what they're saying,
kind of mix and match. What they're doing is they're getting confused by how the character creator works. It looks like they're getting angry because of, there's constraints between, you got to pick a male or female character and then modify them, but they will have a male or female. That's just, I think, expediency of game design. I think people will get very confused otherwise. This is so dumb.
So, like, just to kind of add, they clarify it here. Only deep-voiced characters can be identified as male, while higher-pitched characters are identified as female, which perpetuates the harmful idea that people's genders can be identified by certain traits.
What the hell is that?
That is how society works. That is how you recognize men and women, by identifiable traits, by breasts, by voice. You don't even have to talk about genitals here, because the way in which that's always dealt with is, not going to look inside people's pants. And you're absolutely right. Your average person isn't going to be looking at your junk. What they are going to look at is all the other signifiers around it. That includes breast growth. That includes facial hair. That especially includes voice. In fact, I think that if you're going to kind of assign a gender that way, voice, I genuinely think is the best one, because you can, like, as a trans woman, you can look incredible. You can have so much work done to yourself. You can have the boobs, you can have the figure, you can do everything. But if you don't work on your voice, that it instantly kind of shatters the illusion of everything around it.
You speak, yeah.
It's you are much more likely to be gendered correctly if you sound female but look more male than if you pass completely as a woman and then open your mouth and it's Big Baz from Down the Feathers. Like that is how it works. I've learned that because my voice used to be really, really bad years ago. It's fucking awful. But I have done a lot of work on my voice, like to get it where it is. And yes, I know that I've had pot shots, particularly from trans activists who make fun of my voice and say that I sound really deep and manly, and there's no way that my voice ever passes me. But for a lot of time in my job, I speak on the phone and I'm never misgendered by people.
Yeah, you sound fine. You sound good.
I think I sound really fine. But you know, like that, just to kind of point that out, like you could, like I at the very least know from not living in a queer bubble, but from actually living in the real world, that I generally do pass. And I can say, even when I'm at my roughest feeling, I know that at least I do, because that is how people treat me. And so this line gets stupider when you read on, and only a few paragraphs, because remember this. So the harmful idea people's genders can be identified by certain traits.
What kind of world do these people want, though, where you can't identify a person by their traits? Like that's the whole point. That's just nature.
Yeah. So to jump ahead a little bit. So remember this. Harmful idea people's genders can be identified by certain traits. They then go on to say, it's possible players will uncover more trans characters over the course of the game, but it seems odd that reviewers who have played anywhere from 40 to 60 hours have yet to encounter any meaningful trans NPCs.
Well, the whole
how
point
do
is
they know? How do they know? I mean, they've just said, like, the harmful idea people's genders can be identified by certain traits. How do you know that they're trans? How do you know that they're not trans? I mean, by your own logic, unless I do think that some of these people, because again, they live in a queer bubble where announcing your pronouns, announcing your sexuality and your gender is surprisingly common. It's a very common greeting within the queer community to start any conversation by saying how you identify and what your pronouns are. That's very, very common. And so they might genuinely believe that's how the rest of the world works, that it's all the same way as a queer bubble, or at least if it doesn't work in the real world like that, it should work in this video game. And they must be annoyed that they haven't been able to pressure the Polish game company to do woke progressive narratives. It's insane. But
you're right that they went pretty far in actually not attempting to please these people, but in doing something that should please these people. They went very far into the options in this game.
Yeah,
it's another example that what you do will never be good enough.
Yeah,
so you shouldn't even try.
Exactly.
Yeah. Here, and so they've got some other points about it. Occasional appearance of trans flags. But the majority of the characters appear to be cisgender and heterosexual. Oh no!
So they even
not like the real world.
As even trans, they even put the trans pride flag in the fucking game, and that's still not good enough.
Exactly. What other game has that?
Well, Celeste has the trans flag, and one angry gamer flipped his lid over it. That was praised when they put the trans flag in Celeste. That was hugely praised. It was like, oh my god, look, it's we're represented in this. And then afterwards, the creator was like, yeah, the main character, she's trans all along, and like that was completely praised. But then here it's like, oh, it's just tokenism. I mean, personally, I kind of think putting the trans flag in anything is a bit cringe. I have been annoyed with a lot of games that I've been playing recently where you can have, like, for example, I tried playing Fallout 76 recently, and one of the icons that you can have, which is a free one, is a pride flag, and you can also have like a pride flag filter for when you take photographs. In Sea of Thieves, there's a free pride flag that you can have on your ship as well, and it just feels really kind of like awkward like that these things are just kind of put in
shoehorned,
there.
isn't it? It's like
it
it
feels
breaks the
very
immersion.
Yeah, especially for something like Fallout.
You could think in a world where the 50s never ended. I don't know if, and it was quite authoritarian by the end in 2022 or whatever it was, 2150. I don't know if there would be pride flags.
I don't think so. I mean, it's basically like 120 years of Leave It to Beaver.
It's a McCarthyism, but extreme.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
So if you're gay, you're a communist, I guess, in the Fallout world.
Mm.
I'm not. No.
Well, I mean, like in the wasteland, I suppose, like they have a different attitude to it. But certainly for especially for the timeline of Fallout 77 or Fallout 76 rather, I don't think I don't think in that world they would be instantly accepting of pride flags. I don't think they would even have a pride flag. And then afterwards, it wouldn't even need to be much of an issue because people are more bothered with surviving than they are fighting for gay representation.
The problem's going to be that this is all going to age extremely poorly.
Yes.
This is a fad, and it's a fad of a very short amount of time. It's really only a fad of, I'd say, since 2018, really, is when it really got back.
We're only in like 2 years.
Yeah. And it's gonna feel like, have you ever got into like a video game or a piece of media or anything really that has really, really horrendously dated references? It's like having fucking Coney 2012 signs everywhere, or those Livestrong bands or anything like that. It feels really, really awkward, and there's a whole bunch of stuff like that. I can remember a good example is someone talked about, like, I think it was like Scary Movie 2 or something.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's an example where they parody an extremely specific like Nike advert that makes no fucking sense these days. I think a lot of games that cozy up to very current events, very, very current politics in, 3 to 5 years are going to date themselves horribly.
Yeah.
And possibly that's going to become deal breakers for people.
They're going to fall out. They're going to fall out of the it's going to be games like Cyberpunk, which are kind of a bit are neutral on most topics and just focus upon the world, which will survive the test of time.
Yeah. Let's say Miles Morales has a Black Lives Matter content in it as well. Like that's another thing which is going to age. It's especially weird for that game because Miles Morales doesn't have any problems with the police. In fact, he helps them out.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing about the thing about BLM is that the jury's still out on it for many people. So, like, you think about the Millwall stuff that happened last week.
Yes.
Their fan club just released a statement today saying, they're not booing like racism. They're booing the idea that these people are representing a movement that want to destroy our society.
Yeah.
That's why they're booing, and they've doubled down. The fans of Millwall have doubled down, and so they've stopped kneeling in Millwall now.
As they should have. I'm actually really glad that they took a stand on that. So again, like, this is just the way in which all of this nightmare game of transphobia, it's everything in it is just so basic. Like these ideas of treating trans people as exotic and sexy, again, in a game, in a universe which is highly sexualized. From everything I've seen, Cyberpunk seems like a highly sexy, like not so much like kind of like the early noughties type of sexualized where you just have bikini models everywhere, but just more everyone just seems to be quite hyper, like I don't know, horny, like
yeah. Degeneracy turned up to 11.
Yeah, and exactly. Yeah. But that's just the world that it is. So exactly. in that sense, if you're going to have this kind of dystopian, hypersexualized world, yes, they would treat everyone as exotic and sexy, and they would do that with trans women, especially if trans women are a minority, which of course they would be. Like, do you honestly expect them not to be portrayed in that way? It makes a more grounded world when you do that. Not everywhere is going to be like, oh, trans. It's like. They're not going to do adverts saying like trans rights now, or like kind of global hegemony. This
is a world post equality. If you get what I mean there. So obviously, everything's no one gives a damn anymore about whatever you are. There is no longer a gender construct or a sex construct. Everyone is just themselves.
It's literally the two dividing factors really in the Cyberpunk universe are your standing with the large corporations and the amount of credits you have. and one can affect the other. If you have enough credits, you can buy out whatever the hell you want. It really is that hyper endpoint capitalist corporatist kind of nightmare world that it's meant to be. Like I said, this always goes back to the entire roots of cyberpunk. It's really kind of, it has that flavor of the 80s yuppieism, but it also has that flavor of, like, you know, Weimar Germany. And
it is. It's Weimar US, isn't it?
Yeah. Weimerica, as some people call it. But it's that those are the roots of the fiction. That is what the base fiction draws on. It's like, it'd be like criticizing Tolkien for having a fantasy universe, which I know some SJWs have done about the whole, you know, all racist thing, and that's a separate thing. But it's very much akin to how ridiculous that is.
So here's a bit from Kotaku's review, which, you know, this is the same outlet that put criticism in the PS5 review about how it's launching at a time of drumpf.
Commodities are expensive, guys.
Wow. Things cost money.
The commodities cost money. Did you know that some people can't afford commodities? Wow, but you feel bad now, don't you?
Money exists, free.
This is a bit what I love in the Kotaku review, though. My V has a vagina and goes by he, but the game doesn't seem to acknowledge that he's a trans man. Trans men don't want to necessarily be acknowledged as being trans men. They want to be acknowledged as being men. And so you have people talking to this guy and saying, like, you know, making reference to his dick or balls. But, like, yeah, a trans guy would probably, like, I'm willing to bet, like, if Mars is watching this, I bet I can guarantee he'll back me up on this. He would rather people assume he had a dick than a vagina.
That's the whole point.
It's the whole
it's not the whole point.
Transitioning. It's the whole damn point.
Like, you can't just be. Oh, I just don't even. You have to play the character, for God's sake.
Yeah.
So there seems to be some, like, Schrodinger's argument here that these, like, all three of these articles seem to have argued that gender is defined by the genitals, which is exactly the opposite of what a lot of the TRAs say. They seem to be not internally consistent within their own arguments.
They're not, because they know that they know that deep down they know it makes absolutely no sense. They want to have this idea that the only way in which you can prescribe gender to something is simply just by self-identifying and announcing it to the world. That's what they want, but they can't even keep consistent with that themselves. Like the way in which they're saying here, this person who is a trans man, as in a female who is transitioning to be male, who wants to be seen as being a male, they are annoyed that he's not being referred to as trans man for some bizarre reason.
Trans man.
Like all of this is based, like, all their criticism is based on they can't tell which characters are and aren't trans.
They're really annoyed that people don't walk around with rainbow armbands on. That's what they're annoyed about. They're annoyed that it's not made a show of.
There is another article which I wanted to highlight because of the person who wrote it. So here we go. Cyberpunk 2077 looms. How am I supposed to deal with it as a trans woman? By Anna Valens. So Anna Valens, for those who might not necessarily be aware of who she is, she became famous a few months ago for writing this. What playing Fall Guys with a sex toy means for sex, tech, and consent in games. Play is an erotic experience, and I'm having a blast. By Anna Valens.
I have an Anna Valens story, actually, because she got very mad at me on Twitter. This was a couple of years ago now, really. She got very mad on Twitter and challenged me to debate her on stream, basically. And I actually took her up on it. I wasn't expecting that. And she ended up deleting it right afterwards because a lot of the comments, especially her fans, were saying that whilst I was rude, they agreed with me more about the point of being genuine and the point of, like, basically I was making the point that, like, passing is important because people don't want to get fucking assaulted in certain areas.
Absolutely.
And it has a big real life impact. And I think I managed to argue that it's a shame that this has lost the time now. I should have recorded it myself because they deleted it, like, straight away because they got absolutely fucking destroyed. But yeah, it was hilarious. And there must be a Twitter. I'll see if I can find the Twitter thread at some point. But there's a whole bunch of people saying, okay, well, Scrump was rude. I can really see his point, and he's making a strong point. It was really funny. Anyway, yeah, that's But yeah, they got famous. They are also famous for being one of the people that's saying that not having sex with trans people is transphobic. They became a poster child of the suck the dick bigot movement and got extremely made. Do you remember that stuff when they were doing that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh God, I keep on forgetting her name. Rachel. Someone. I keep on forgetting. God damn it! I keep on forgetting her name. But yeah, there was like that. I mean, that's still a thing. It's one of those weird kind of Motte and Bailey points where trans activists will try and tell you, like, no, that's not a thing. That's not. Nobody's saying that. Meanwhile, it's going on right in front of your face by some quite prominent people who are purposely given platforms to spread that very specific message. Like it references in here about, like, ultimately kind of sums up why journalists don't like this game. God damn it, where's the fucking line? Initial preview from Riley McLeod at Kotaku shows a diverse game world, and yet race, queerness, or transness don't feel like topics the developers are interested in specifically addressing or exploring. Yes, because they're making a video game about a dystopian world.
It's just they're just making a video game in general. People don't want to discuss that in their video games. Like, you know, make an indie game about it. Yeah, fair enough. You know, but it's a game which is meant to be for a massive audience, and there's a thing called escapism. People love it.
Yeah, one was. But ultimately, like, this is just written by someone who gained notoriety for playing a game which has a lot of kids players whilst having a sex toy shoved up her ass.
Oh, that's just, oh my God! Like, what is up with game journalists? What is up? What is up with them? And they, like, they're just like doing like publicity stunts more or less. But
who is the guy who did that? Who shoved the Joy-Con up his ass for Destructoid? Jed Whittaker.
Yes.
I still have. Jed Whittaker and Movie Bob are people who follow me around the internet, taking down the things I post about them because they're so bad. Movie Bob, it was the eugenics tweets that I collected. He actually, like, first he tried to copyright strike it, and then he actually got a community. Well, it wasn't actually community strike; it was just a community takedown. I didn't actually get a strike.
Are you on the queue to go on EFAP, Scrump?
Yeah, I'm actually on the queue.
Yeah, because I can imagine you're gonna have one hell of a time.
I've been on the queue since the beginning. The timings just keep matching up. It's actually largely my fault.
Because I'm very interested for that when that time comes.
I will poke Rags again because I'm supposed to be on at some point. They've been promising that since the beginning, and I think every time I've been asked, I haven't been around.
So we've been talking about Cyberpunk now for almost an hour. So does anyone have anything else that they want to say before we move on to the next story?
Not really. But yeah, it's just games journalist and a games journalist, I think.
Yeah.
One thing I would say is that I'm kind of disappointed with CD Projekt Red because whilst they've handed out keys today for the release tomorrow to a lot of people, they didn't hand a lot of them out previously, I think because of story spoilers. They were very paranoid about story spoilers, which is understandable, but the way that they did it was they disproportionately affected people who don't write text reviews. They almost seem to pander to the games journalists, which is really, I think it was either the PR department or the PR agency they go through who messed that up. It's kind of hard to do launches like this when you have giant organizations dealing with PR companies, because sometimes one could not communicate well with the other. But whatever the cause, the result was that games journalists ended up with greater access than a lot of independent content creators, which I think was the wrong move. I think Cyberpunk actually should have cut out these people and made a show of putting them out and had maybe a limited beta that content creators could stream safely that wouldn't have too many spoilers in it. I don't know how they would do that, but they really should have interfaced with their community more.
An old school demo.
Yeah. I think they should have given streamers like a 2 to 3 hour demo version of the game that they could have played on stream. That would have been a great nod to the community.
Do you remember demos before they got rid of them?
Anyway.
But no, I was just going to say, my last point would be on game journalism as a whole. Like, it should have died coming on 5 years now, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when TV started kicking off big style. Remember Total Biscuit? That was kind of the beginning of the end of game journalism as a written form and moving towards YouTube. And the only reason they survive is because of nonsense like this.
Yeah.
It's literally the only reason they still exist. And I think, and the activism. And so they're just clinging on for dear life because they know their industry literally has it's on borrowed time. It's like in Fergie time.
Yeah. And when it comes to actual game news, I much prefer like kind of the more independent, smaller content creators anyway. Like, and when it comes to actually watching game stuff, I like watching, I kind of like watching like these really kind of long 20 to 30-minute long like reviews of retro games.
Yeah.
That's something I've really got into.
Like an old school, well, for me, when I first started on YouTube, or when I first started watching YouTube, it would be Turbo Skate. You'd watch all the TFAs.
Yeah.
And then that basically then kicked off the whole reviewing genre of like massively long videos going through options menus, seeing what options you have, and then basically that's
some of those are enjoyable. Like,
oh yeah, quite cathartic.
Yeah, there's quite. I think one of my favorites at the moment is Arlo. Like when it comes to kind of gaming news, because he's a puppet, and I like that.
He's a puppet. Yeah. Well.
Yeah. So time to go over some super chats. Pixel with the £2. Prynawn da. I'm part Welsh and I plan to learn it. Bendy gedig.
Prynawn da. Da iawn. Dalati.
Mr. Floppy Knickers with the $5. Three things. It's just a brilliant name. 3 things I envy about Scotland: Dankula and Sue, and those 2 Scottish Munchies boxes. No, and those Scottish Munchies boxes. What I want to end it all will be Death by Munchies box. So Munchies box, I think they're not just in Scotland; they're in the north of England as well. You get like loads of random stuff from like a Chinese or a kebab shop or something, and you just put them in a pizza box.
Oh, they do that. They do that in Swansea and stuff like that.
Like I've yet to have one. I've yet to have one, but I do really want one because I just love the idea of having something that greasy.
Can't you have like a full English breakfast as a munchie box?
Probably.
I think there's some places that do that, if I remember.
Yeah. Pixel again with the £2. Gamer pronouns. Xi Jinping. King Penguin with the £2. Remember, Wales comes from Old English for servant.
It means foreigner, actually, but that's why you have places like Wallachia in Poland, because it's the old Germanic for foreign. In Welsh, we'd call ourselves the Cymry, which means kind of countrymen. Or if you're going older Welsh, even, we'd call ourselves the Brythoniadau, which means the Britons. So I'm not going to go off on one. I can go off on one about the history of Wales, but I'm going to stop.
And finally, Reed Lavity with the $5. As a man with a very effeminate voice, I agree with Rose. Makes me wonder what would happen if I ever went the trap route. Well, like the voice is one of the kind of the big hurdles. So if you've got that, you're like halfway there. But yeah, absolutely. Like, I think so many people, especially so many trans people, really underestimate the importance of the voice and the voice work. It's vital if you want people to read you in a particular way. So with that, time to get into a little bit of dangerous territory. So have you guys seen what the state of YouTube currently is? Like what we are and are not allowed to talk about?
The absolute state of YouTube, yeah. Just bring up the
wild.
Yeah, let me just. God damn it! Where is it gone?
The relevant part.
Right. So here is the blog post from YouTube's official blog. Over the past weeks and months, we've seen people coming to YouTube to learn more about where and how to vote. Blah 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 blah. So yes, but anyway, here's the important bit. Yesterday was the safe harbor deadline for the US presidential election, and enough states have certified their election results to determine a president-elect. Given that, we will start removing any piece of content uploaded today or anytime after that misleads people by alleging that widespread fraud or errors changed the outcome of the 2020 US presidential election, in line with our approach towards historical US presidential elections. That's a complete lie because they didn't do that.
Yeah. I was going to say that all the shit about the
about Russia
being invalidated because of Russia is evidence against that. But anyway,
it's a complete I mean, at that point, their credibility is just instantly shot. For example, we will remove videos claiming that a presidential candidate won the election due to widespread software glitches or counting errors. We begin enforcing this policy today and will ramp up in the weeks to come. As always, news coverage and commentary on these issues can remain on our site if there's sufficient education, documentary, scientific, or artistic context. So by that, effectively, really, the only acceptable viewpoint is going to be Biden one.
Can you talk about it, though, with MS Paint open and draw at the same time and say it's artistic?
So they did provide a clarification to Tim Pool, which is really confusing. So this is how the rules can be interpreted. And I personally am not confident that YouTube will stick with this. You can still say Trump actually won the election. You can still claim the election was stolen from Trump, but you must meet two conditions for a video to be removed. You must claim widespread fraud or error and say it made Trump lose. So you can so if you say that Trump lost because of widespread fraud or error, then that's grounds for it to be banned.
So what they're saying is you can make baseless claims about Trump winning, but as soon as you back them up with evidence, you get banned.
Yeah, yes. No evidence allowed. You have to look like an idiot or you're not allowed.
Yeah, so that is a very interesting way of putting it. Because if you say that Trump actually won the election, how are you able to potentially describe that in a credible way?
Can you put it? You can't even post links in the thing, can you?
Well, I would assume that. What links?
Can you post links in the description saying, look at my links in the description, all the evidence is there, and just keep saying?
No, you could probably not. I think a lot of the way people will get around it is just comment on someone else's post off-site. Basically, they're saying they're doing commentary on other content, which seems to get around a lot of YouTube's restrictions. It's really strange, but I think that it will be arbitrarily enforced. And because it's so open to interpretation, it's not the big content creators it'll end up destroying, but it's the medium-sized and small ones.
Yeah, it's people like us.
Yeah, it stops content creators bubbling up to the surface who YouTube finds undesirable.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of the restrictions they put on around firearms. They're not actually not very heavily enforced, but all it does is it has a big chilling effect. It makes people afraid to do and say certain things on the platform. That's the point of it. The point of it is to make the rules so confusing that you can't abide by them. Yeah. So it makes you censor yourself further as not to fall foul of them. You're right, though. This is also a massive step into editorializing. This is an editorial decision.
Well, it is. I was about to say that this is YouTube basically saying that what kind of way you can describe a world event. Bearing in mind that there are cases concerning voter fraud still going through the U.S. courts.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's still prevalent, you know. The news is still there, but talking about the editorializing, the YouTube do they realize that they're opening themselves up now to lawsuit after lawsuit?
Well, they probably aren't scared of that happening.
Well, because
they feel untouchable. They think if Biden becomes president, they will be untouchable.
Yeah,
they are basically saying that you can't criticize the incoming regime.
Yes.
It is a very clear signal, one, that they are afraid of what might happen in the coming days and weeks with Trump's team and his legal challenge. If they weren't afraid of this gaining legitimacy, they wouldn't have taken the step because this antagonizes people. It's a risky step on their part. I don't think it's really a vulgar display of power because they would have, if it was, they would have already banned all these people. They would just yeet everyone off the platform if they thought they were safe.
Yeah.
So this is a move of desperation because a lot of big lawsuits are still in. The safe harbor hasn't gone through. There is still a lot going on in the courts. They reported today that the Pennsylvania lawsuit was thrown out. It wasn't. All they did was deny the emergency injunction, which was, that's kind of a win more, if you will, getting an emergency injunction. The litigation is still ongoing, and the fact that Texas and 10 other states now are
17.
suing. Oh, 17. Okay, it's gone up again. Shit. Okay, 17 out of 50 states are suing Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Georgia for conducting an illegal election, basically.
So that's basically 5 of the states that stopped.
That's not to say that Trump won't pull the press the button and get the military involved towards the end of it. God knows what's going to happen. I don't know anymore.
I don't think Trump's stepping down. I think he's getting out. I think
he's ordering out Order 66 before he steps down.
There is I don't want to get too far into the weeds here because we could fall foul.
Yeah, exactly.
But I will say that there is, if you want to look up Trump's executive orders in 2018, a lot of prerequisites have been met for his executive order that was actually welcomed about election interference. That would give him a whole host of executive powers legally, because the Democrats never challenged that. So that does still stand. It would be interesting to see, he would probably be challenged in the courts over those emergency powers, but there are 3 different routes Trump has, let's say, to challenge the election. I think putting it that way is a good way of saying it. It's Trump is challenging the election still. I think that's a matter of fact that no one can disagree with.
And he's getting more support all the time. Like Ted Cruz the other day came out to support him, which is wild considering Ted Cruz is quite quite deep GOP, So
he's not as deep GOP as you think. Actually, in 2016, he was seen as an outsider candidate when compared to a lot of the other field. It was interesting because the 2016, not to get too far into the political weeds here, but the 2016 election field for the Republicans was actually full of mavericks. Ted Cruz was seen as someone who was too spicy for the establishment if Trump hadn't been in the field. But because Trump was in the field, everything shifted. He basically pulled everything towards the anti-establishment direction. It's kind of interesting.
Jeb was an afterthought.
yeah. So Jeb became so out of focus. Yeah, it really did. Please clap. It really did pull things away from the Jebs of this world.
Yeah,
kind of great. Jeb seems like the least shitty Bush. Honestly,
that's it's not hard.
No.
Anyway, back to the YouTube stuff. I'm thinking, right, as soon as this was announced, I was like, I could just imagine Crowder shouting his lawyer, "Go and get on it." Bill Richmond. I imagine he's already looking into it. Because obviously Crowder's going to come up against this, and he's going to be he's the big guy. He's got probably the resources to gather to deal with this.
If Trump does get back in, this is clear pretext for removing safe harbor protections from Google.
Yeah,
they
also,
have gone so far. They have gone so far beyond the pale with editorializing their content and policing not even kind of it's really just policing the content that could be on the platform. And in terms of content, it is the very definition of editorializing. I don't understand how they could come back from this.
I think that these Amazon, Alphabet, Disney, etc. are absolutely terrified of a trust busting.
They are. They're really terrified of a second Trump administration. Kind of, all they might have done by doing this is kick the hornet's nest.
Getting the hammer out and just being like, boom, 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 gone. Like it's all shattered, and that whole empire they spent years building up, broken apart. And imagine that would change the world overnight.
It would, yes.
Yeah.
It would be absolutely wild. Like Amazon Prime, Video being separated from Amazon, the delivery service, because that would probably have to happen. YouTube being sold off from Google.
They could Google Disney's streaming service, its movie arm, and its kind of TV and other media. All of that needs to be. You're right. Needs to be separated because.
And then Fox, which they've just bought, being told, okay, you have to sell Fox.
Yeah, Fox and Marvel being made to be separate companies and have to compete. It'd be an interesting one, that's for sure, because everything has become exceptionally centralized to an extreme degree that I don't think people even thought possible in the 1980s, which was seen as the capitalist playground era, as we talked about, with it being the birth of Cyberpunk.
Just look at how much share, but that doesn't even go into it, because these companies own shares in other companies, ridiculous amount of shares. Like Disney owns shares in some of the weirdest companies going. If you look up Disney holdings on YouTube, on Wikipedia or whatever, they'll literally tell you they own shares in Sky in the UK. They own shares in some absolutely out there things.
Vice was the weirdest one they held shares in.
They bought. I remember way back when they bought a lot of the old YouTube machinima networks up.
Yes.
They bought Polaris Network, which was the big one they bought up. Did they buy Machinima? I can't remember.
No, that was
Machinima shut down.
No, Machinima was renamed and bought by Warner Media, another giant. It's Warner who owns the ghost of Machinima now, I think.
Yeah, because YouTube networks are gone now anyway. But so it's just
they're not fully gone. No, they still operate behind the scenes. There's still people who have MCN support. For example, I don't know. I don't think it has a direct relationship with them anymore, but Dev used to be part of an MCN, and see, he still actually gets legal support from them occasionally. That's how he's managed to navigate the site kind of as well as he has. He knows he's got demonetized recently. That's hopefully coming back. Fingers crossed.
It's probable, right? I would think a good way of getting around this now. The people go, "Oh, get a YouTube video." No, I think you could probably get like a kind of political YouTubers network, or in that sense that have like, you'd have like, say, Rose, AA, Scrump, and the Lotus Eaters and all that, all in kind of a shared network, are looking out for each other.
But the problem there is that anytime someone tries to organize in that space, or even bring about a alternate platform like Parler or BitChute or any of those, is that they immediately get slandered and attacked and deplatformed by the media, because Amazon and Google own all the hosting on the internet. They own all the infrastructure. They own all the servers. Amazon infrastructure and Google Cloud and Cloudflare are the internet now. Yeah. They are the backbone of it. There is no internet service that is not somehow touched by Google or Amazon. You can't run a website if Google or Amazon refuses to do business.
Think about it, should Google or Amazon collapse somehow, the internet's fucked.
Well, people were talking about this. There was some rumors about what Google was doing with their data center, some very unusual traffic. People remember there's a couple of weeks ago, YouTube wasn't stable, Google Cloud wasn't stable. They were Discord said that they had a failure that seemed like a power failure, which is relatively uncommon because of the way that Google does power backup. But there's been some weird stuff happening with Google, and that really highlighted the fact that, yes, if Google services do go down, essentially the internet goes down.
Yeah, and like, you think about it, so on the internet now, digitally, there's like a massive property bubble.
Yes, I would say there is. I would say that it's...
Once that pops, it's done.
Well, the tech bubble too, I'd say that a lot of the tech is speculative. It's based on their market position rather than their market potential. And
yeah, you're correct there. I'm just saying, another thing is that all these places are located in Silicon Valley, which is, believe it or not, heavily, is very at risk of an earthquake.
Well, that could happen, but the big one is that a lot of it is fueled by angel investment and hedge funds, and there's a lot of liquidity that comes into it from the outside. These sites don't actually make a huge amount of money themselves. A lot of it either comes in. I mean, Alphabet being called Alphabet is a funny nod. Well, they think it's a funny nod. I think it's fucking disgusting that they did that because of the amount of money that they got from the Alphabet agencies, because they get paid for their backdoor access. That's how Google made a lot of its money, and that's how Google became how big as it is. It's an open secret that Google works hand in glove and worked hand in glove with the government on many, many projects. And that's why they like cozying up to people like the Chinese government.
Same with Facebook. Yeah. He made money all out selling data. That's how he makes his money.
Them calling themselves Alphabet is them basically just saying that they are so confident and they know so much that they won't ever be revealed for the ties that they have to the FBI, the CIA, and all these data gathering programs, that they're just going to call themselves Alphabet as a fucking joke. Like that is such a hubristic nod to the fact that people know what they did and they will never be punished for it. It really actually annoys me.
So does anyone have anything else they'd like to add on Google and like the new rules?
I don't think there's much you can say. It's so
transparent.
It's so transparent. So it's just so awful.
It's frustrating that they're going to get a big pass from the usual suspects on this. So this is Google actively saying what you want. I mean, and they've done this a lot this year. They did it with COVID. They've done it with the kinds of videos that you can make about COVID. And now they're doing it with the election. And a lot of this is the kind of stuff that Projekt Veritas said that they would do in an election year. They've been calling this for years. And what happens next? Like, where do they then take this?
Sorry, you go on.
Oh no, I was just going to say, for me, it'd be full, just out there, deplatform, just like off, gone, all gone in one day. It's coming to a head. I think we're starting to get to the peak of the problem.
Yeah, a lot of it kind of feels like a boiling the frog I mean, like how the other day had trending on Twitter is like stop deplatforming leftists on Twitter, then basically getting, exactly what they've been asking for.
Well,
and
wait, when we're all gone.
Like that, demanding that free speech supporters come and have their backs on this when they were cheering when the likes of Alex Jones were removed from social media.
First they came for the classical liberals, and then they came for everybody else. Oh, that's
first they came for Alex Jones.
First they came for Alex Jones.
Alex Jones was the point where everyone should have stepped up and paid attention.
It terrifies me every day.
I would go even further than that. I think the point where they crossed the Rubicon was actually what they did with Stormfront. When GoDaddy and Cloudflare said that they would no longer host Stormfront on their infrastructure, that they were essentially kicked off the internet. They demonstrated that could be done. And if that, it's kind of the case of, it's the Westboro Baptist Church example. If the Westboro Baptist Church doesn't have the right to free speech, nobody does. And you have to defend the most repugnant examples that do technically meet that criteria, that they still have rights. Otherwise, you will lose your rights. Basically, Stormfront was the Westboro Baptist Church of the internet. That everybody reviled them so much that they couldn't see that the deplatforming of them wholesale from all forms of infrastructure meant that model could be applied to anybody, and that is the end game. It's not YouTube. It's not Facebook. It's not Google. It's the fact that they will close your PayPal, that Stripe won't work for you, you can't get payment processors, and people like GoDaddy, people like Cloudflare, people like Google and Amazon will refuse you hosting, and they own all the hosting on the internet. They can disappear you, not just from the internet, but from the financial world. They will cancel your bank accounts. They will contact your landlords. They will destroy everything. And there's nothing you can do about it unless you actually stand up and fight. Like, it's way beyond that. That, I think, is when people should have started coming out and saying this is far too far. This is a blueprint for how you destroy anybody who dissents. Yeah. And because it was, Andrew Anglin and Stormfront, people didn't want to stand up for them because they were the worst.
Yeah, well, it's a similar thing with Tommy Robinson. Like, Tommy Robinson has had bank accounts closed.
Yeah.
It starts with it. It always starts with the people, like you said. It always kind of starts with the more kind of like the extreme side, and then people don't notice that creep. I kind of pointed this out with Alex Jones, and after Alex Jones, there was, I remember that they did that day of coordinated bannings with a load of different accounts. They completely coordinated that. You then see over the last year on Twitter, especially coming up to the election, the amounts of conservative or Trump supporting accounts that were being yeeted left, right, and center. The creep is started. Like Scrum said, if it all started with Stormfront, which is the most kind of extreme.
Yeah, it was Stormfront. The website was the Daily Stormer. Sorry, it was Andrew Anglin, the Daily Stormer, and all of that surrounded that.
Right.
To my disappointment, I think that a lot of people even people you'd expect to stand up for that just didn't, because it was the Daily Stormer. Yeah. They're actually back now, but kind of in a lower capacity. But yeah, for a short time, they were essentially, kicked off the internet wholesale.
Just to talk about Alex Jones, it does terrify me every day he gets more correct. Have you heard about, just to be a bit lighthearted, have you heard about that Galactic Federation thing?
Oh God, yes.
That was fantastic news.
Well, there's a Stone Toss comic a while ago, basically about that. Of aliens landing, ignoring the US and just going straight to the Israeli ambassadors. And then you have this guy from Israel saying, "Oh, the Galactic Federation only talks to Israel and the United States." And what really annoyed me with that story is he's saying there's going to be no repercussions for me now because I've retired. And I'm just thinking, well, the Galactic Federation is probably going to be, keeping an eye on you with all these announcements, declaring their existence before we're ready. What will they do? What is the Galactic Federation? They're not just going to leave that lying down, are they?
No.
Maybe he's ruined our chances of joining the Galactic Federation.
We won't get a seat on the council, Rose.
We won't. It's selfish prick.
How we put for me, this always, I just imagine like a Mass Effect, and it's just like we need to get to the mass relay.
Like we won't have a place on the Citadel.
We need it. We need a human spectre. God damn it! I want blue ladies. Oh my god!
Give me blue ladies or give me death. I want weird psychic sex with blue ladies.
Yeah, exactly. Who may not actually be blue ladies and just giant tentacles, but you won't see it. That's deep low for Mass Effect. I'm not going to go into that.
Disappointed. I really liked the Mass Effect games.
Oh, I love the first one. I love. Yeah, I just started number 2 again. Because number 1, I'm going to hold off until they redo the mechanics in the Legendary Edition. So I'm just going straight to number 2, and I'm going to do number 3 again.
Yeah, number 1 I found really boring. Number 2 is the one that I started.
One can be a bit stilted and boring. I agree, but it's not actually that bad. You just avoid the Mako missions, you know.
Yeah, Mako was crap.
Don't. It felt like I don't know. Remember like big rigs over the road racing?
Yeah,
big rigs. It kind of felt like that. It felt like Big Rigs meets Skyrim Horse before Skyrim Horse was a thing.
Oh, Skyrim Horse. See, when Lockdown came out, I did a comment the other day on Twitter. I just went, I think 2020 is the first year I spent more time in Skyrim than real life. Because a universe with world-eating dragons is far better than this one. It's like fucking hell. It is, but no, I do love the Mass Effect games, and I can't wait. I wish Destroy is the right ending. That's all I'll say on the matter. Then.
So Scrump, do you have any good news for us this week?
I had some, then I forgot it, and now I can't find it again. I'm really bad. I keep getting these stories, and I keep absolutely just losing them.
That's fine. Well, we do have some other good news.
All right, go ahead.
It's a good news, and it's why? It's our Seal of the Week. The Seal of the Week is always good news. And so this week's Seal of the Week is 4 seals: Orion, Solar, Delphinus, and Flare.
Oh, no. It's like the Mass Effect theme.
Seal Delphine.
So these seals are being released. They've gone through rehabilitation. Yeah, you can see them there.
I don't know why I pictured a seal in rehab. I don't know why.
Oh, but they're being they've been rescued, and they have been they've been looked after and got themselves nice and plump, and now they're being released back into the wild.
Wonderful.
Look at them there.
Oh, look at them go.
Innocent Flare. Like bounce.
Those sea dogs.
Bounce.
They're very cute.
They are ridiculously cute. Did you see them kiss?
Oh.
Did you see them kiss?
Oh, there you go.
If you're gonna Rose, if you ever come down southwest Wales again and go to Tenby, you should take the boat tours, because there's seals. There's whole islands full of seals.
I do love Tenby. I do love Tenby. So I think at this point it's time to vote for the seal of approval. Oh. So I have.
Yes, we have the poll this week.
We do. And I've just posted it in the chat. It's also in the description of the video. So please go and vote for your seal, who you think should get the seal of approval. And now a word from our sponsor. And our sponsor is the Festive Seal merchandise line that you might be able to still order in time for Christmas if you're quick. So this
awesome,
is
good merch.
The Christmas top. So I want to thank Lizu from Discord, who made me this beautiful seal tree. It's got the Rose of Dawn logo there, and it's got the seals. Yeah, they're really proud.
Why have you not made a seal Christmas jumper yet?
And here's the seal Christmas jumper.
You
can get it in different colors. So you can get black, you can get a nice red. So if you can't get it in time for Christmas this year, you could get it in time for when we're all back in the office next year, and you got your Christmas jumper day, and you can go wearing this with the tree of seals.
It'll be amazing when you can get a seal plushie like that.
I would love to be able to sell seal plushies. And also there is a women's t-shirt as well. And there is a fitted tank top. So the link is in the description to that if you like your seal t-shirts and you want to get them before Christmas. But also, I've got kind of another really weird announcement. This was something which was really cool. Let me just show this to you, especially because of the way in which it's worded. And it's especially amazing because, again, I've been taking a break from YouTube, so it's strange that I get stuff like this. So I received this the other day from the Oxford Union, who have invited me to take part in a debate on this house would cancel culture.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Fantastic.
But look at the way that they addressed me. Mix of Dawn.
What?
It's like when AA sent me a package.
Yeah, Mrs. of Dawn.
It said
yeah.
Mix of Dawn. MX
my God.
I'd love to. Yeah, dear Mr. Monkey would be mine.
It's just MX, the gender neutral non-binary honorific.
Mix.
Mix.
Oh, I didn't see that. I thought it was.
Could someone please, just as a joke, make an article saying that calling people X something or mix is misgendering?
It is misgendering.
Yeah, they misgendered you there, Rose.
Mm.
How dare
they? I'll be joining the likes of Ronald Reagan, Winston Churchill, and Shakira.
Wow, it's quite a thing to be asked by the Oxford Union.
I know,
that's a big deal.
Do not lie.
Yeah, Rose, you're mainstream.
Mm. I know it was just pretty cool, and I just wanted to share that with everyone.
Yeah, I think that's amazing.
But yeah, I thought that was some good personal use, and so I wanted to
hold that above Sargon. Many people.
I've seen how Sargon performs in debates.
See, the person I'd love to see in the Oxford Union, right, is to see Dank in the Oxford Union. That'd be hilarious.
I think he would actually be all right.
I'm surprised he hasn't been asked yet. I gotta be honest. But because it'd be hilarious just seeing this mega Scottish guy. Anyway, yeah. But all the best for that one, Rose. All the best, honestly.
So I think it's time to announce who gets this week's seal of approval. Scrump, traditional drum roll, please.
Oh, here we go. Hopefully not too loud.
And it's you. You are the winner.
Hooray! GG. I tried to vote for myself. It kept saying vote failed.
I voted for you, Scrump. I voted for you.
I couldn't even vote for myself, so that's not even including my vote.
So Scrump, you came first. Owen, you came second.
Valiant.
And me, the host, came last. The host should never win these things anyway. It should It should always be the guest. It should always be.
My Scrump won. Yeah, Trump actually won, but not because of straw poll fraud.
I'm telling you now, those 3 votes now, Scrump, they're fraudulent.
Oh, I DM'd you something. This is how I'm planning to get past the new restrictions on YouTube, because I got to show my stream tomorrow. Show my channel link.
Is it the picture that you sent me?
The Middle Earth one, yeah.
Yes, I was just about to share that actually.
We're not talking about the US election tomorrow, but we are talking about the Middle Earth election.
It's Sarah Biden. Oh, that'd be so good.
So are you playing Minecraft whilst talking about the Middle Earth election, or are you discussing about
serious political analysis? But for legal reasons, the Middle Earth election did take place in Minecraft. So.
See, Rohan, right? I'm telling you, those votes in Rohan, those weren't right.
Well, it turns out that the army of the dead voted, and they all voted, which is very.
This is quite wrong. Yeah.
I mean, Sauron winning the Gondorian election is it's a little bit sus, guys. I will say, I think I can legally say that.
How can Gandalf do so well in Riverwood and not Riverwood, Mirkwood or whatever it is, and do so poorly in Gondor? It doesn't make sense.
Oh dear me.
So,
Riverwood World of Warcraft.
No, it's Skyrim, I believe.
All right, okay. I get down it. I'm getting my fantasy.
Is it Mirkwood? Arendelle as well. Oh God.
Arendelle is frozen.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's terrible. Because we all know Gandalf won the Shire easily. There's no doubt about that, isn't it? Shire.
It's a safe state.
The Shire is it's a Gandalf safe seat.
Yeah.
It's a
Rivendell
state, as they say. But yeah,
so is that on tomorrow?
That'll be tomorrow, 9 p.m. on my YouTube channel. We will be discussing something that has no relation to any election, present or past.
California is Mordor. Oh, that'd be.
We're talking about Middle Earth, and this all took place in Minecraft. So
like there's a link to Scrump's channel in the description. Please go over and subscribe to him. Like, if you like his spiciness in here, he has his own brand on his own channel. Sometimes I do kind of have to rein him in a little bit.
Yes.
I mean, you have been much better behaved than like the first few streams. You'd occasionally say the no word.
I occasionally
gamer it up.
Sometimes the gamer words would come out, and to be fair, I also need to get better at not saying other keywords that I've been told that YouTube does not. Yes, but I will say that yes, those in chat saying that the orcs may have rigged the Middle Earth election. They are a bunch of dirty riggers. Yes.
So I got 2 more super chats to read out. Leisha with the £2. I think your voice is fab, Rose. Oh, thank you.
That's nice. Thank you.
Oh, that's nice.
Wonderful.
And Charity with the £9.99. Thanks so much, love. It's like when they ban people for COVID skepticism by strawmanning every person against the restrictions as COVID denial. They get away with censoring by presenting their opposition as morally inferior. Yeah, that's exactly what they do. That's exactly right.
Correct.
So, Owain, do you have anything else that you would like to show?
Well, I'm this Sunday. Well, if you're into architectural history, ladies and gents, this Sunday we are doing the part 2 of our Renaissance, our look at Renaissance architecture, and we continue to venture through the great history of architecture, and you can hear my dulcet Welsh tones.
To be completely unsarcastic, I didn't realize you did that. That sounds really good, and I will probably go and watch all your videos now because architecture is something that. It's something that genuinely interests me, and it's kind of something outside of the usual area most people talk about on YouTube. So I will be checking that out.
Oh, Scrump, just to ask you this question, right? There's a question in my little community. Is that do you believe what do you believe flaws exist? Is the flaw question? There's a thing called the flaw question. Do you believe a flaw exists?
No, they're just the other. I work in building services, so to me they're just the other side of a ceiling. I work with reflected ceiling plans and not floor plans. So to me, flaws do not exist. Right. They are just the underside of a ceiling where all the important things go.
So you're not a flaw truther?
No, I'm not a flaw truther. No.
There we go. We have an answer, ladies and gents.
I am a flaw truther. I believe in such things as flaws.
Rose's. Oh God!
I believe that flaws actually exist. My feet are on the floor right now. Checkmate, atheist.
Checkmate, floor theist.
I'm ceiling gang. Yes.
Ooh, the Antichrist. Anyway, awesome. It's been awesome to be on.
No, it's been really good having you on. Thank you so much for coming on, especially at short notice as well.
Dim problem, Rose.
Dim problem. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be hopefully streaming Cyberpunk when it's out at midnight. If you want to watch me make my character, we'll see how it goes. So I wouldn't mind doing more things on Twitch. So come
dicks out for Cyberpunk.
So come like the link to my Twitch is in the description. So go and sign up to it, please. And I'll see you. I'll probably start streaming before midnight. I'll probably be playing this amazing game. Let me just show you what it is. I've started playing it. It's simply, oh god damn it! Wait, open image in new tab. There we go. Right, this is the game that I've been playing. Fogs.
Fogs.
It's a game. It's a game where you play as a fog.
Fog.
That's the fog. It's like two dogs joined together as a snake.
Is it cat dog?
It's like cat dog. It's like cat dog, but it's dog, and they don't have legs. They just slither.
Fugs. So they're basically like dog gondolas. Double dog gondola. Okay, that looks pretty good.
If I could tell you, right, if you ever take a dog for a walk and you go around a lamppost, I can't imagine these guys have much fun.
Oh god, it's like a quadruple problem.
Yeah, it's like, okay, do I have to go around? Am I going to go around the lamppost, or is the dog going to go around the lamppost?
They do sometimes get stuck around lampposts in the game.
Oh, do they? Oh, see, it knows the problem.
Oh, and also this is kind of like a placeholder new thumbnail for seal of approval. As you can see, there's a list of different guests who have been on so far. So you've got Dev, you got Blair, you got Dank, AA, you've got Trig, you got Trig at the bottom. Yeah, Harry and Gladiv, is it? Harry and Gladiv.
Harry and Gladiv, the fake Welshman.
Does he try and pretend he's Welsh?
No, everyone else does. What did you say, Scrump? Sorry for interrupting.
I'm gonna say, isn't it a Witcher character?
It is. It's the it's one of the otherworldly characters. It's one of the Wild Hunt, I believe.
So anyway, with all that, thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you Scrump for being the ever trusty co-host, and Owain for being a great guest. So thanks everyone, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye.